Alright, I said I was done for the night. I wasn't. I figured it out. Watch this. Crank seals. Flywheel side. So, that'll be fun. Flywheel off. I got a special tool that threads inside the threads on the flywheel. And you tighten this up and it pushes on the crank. Pops the flywheel off. Well, I got a problem here. It's more than just seals, it's the whole bearing is shot in it. So it's gonna need crank bearings. That means I'm gonna have to pull the head off and split the cases on it and put all new bearings in there. So this guy's gonna get thrown on the back burner for quite a while. But that HiPA CARB, I guarantee you there's nothing wrong with it. It's the saw. There's just too much going on with it for it to work right. So I'd have to say that CARB was probably A-okay in my opinion. And without it, the saw never would have ran anyways without having to rebuild that CARB that was in there already. That thing was just full of crud. But that's our problem right there. Crank seals and gaskets. I do both sides of it. I have to split the case. This side's gonna have to come off too. Head's gotta come off. Handle's gotta come off. And then right here it gets split apart. And I'll have to put a new gasket in between it. And I got a tool to split the case too. It'll be a project for another day. Alright. I'm gonna do something here today. I got that 036 that I rebuilt. And I got the 036 that I put the CARB in from Hippa. I want to take and put this HiPA CARB in the good running 036. That way, I can show you guys their products are pretty decent. So I'm going to start swapping things out here. I got a crankcase splitter tool that I can use to split the case on this saw and put all new bearings and stuff in it. I found parts last night, but I'm not going to order them yet. It'll be a while before I order them, so this is just going to be a project that's going to have to sit for a little while. It just is what it is. There's the HiPA CARB. I'll probably have to tune this, I'm sure. This one here, I've got a clutch ordered for. and the plugs all ordered for it, for the decompression. So once that is once that shows up in the mail, I'll get this thing put together, go do some test cutting with it. I'm gonna dress up the bar on here, file the chain, and send it on down the road to the neighbor so that it's out of my hair. I don't mind working on stuff for the neighbors. This ain't the first 036 that's showed up here. He's got a Husky 55, and then another neighbor's got a Husky 55 that I work on. There's an Olympic that I work on. A whole bunch of stuff. So, let's see here. Where's my little screwdriver? Alright, so that's the Stihl carb. Remember, I had to take and pull. This here's a whole different carb than the other one anyhow. This has only got 3 screws on here, the other one's got 4. But I had to pull on the other one. I had to pull this off the bottom of the other one and put the other cap on here, because this is different for a different saw, which it doesn't hurt nothing because it's still the same thing. That's the old HiPA carb. So, here's the one that came out of the saw. I pulled the HiPA off of that one there, so I just preset it to 1 out and 1 out, like I normally do, and it's actually running pretty good just off of that. So, that other Stihl 036 there, that guy, that one needs the crank seals, and that's why I could not get it to go and tune the way that I needed it to. It was messing with me pretty good, but I got it figured out now. So I'd say they got some pretty decent quality parts. If I run it 1 out and 1 out, that's just like factory settings on a factory Stihl. What are they, a Zama? This one's a Talats, and the other one I believe is a Zama. Can't remember for sure. Either way, the HiPA carburetor here is pretty good, and I also have another one. Right here to put on my 041, because I took that out to the woods, and that saw did not want to stop racing. Definitely a carburetor issue it was having. It kept leaning out on me real funny after a cut, so figured it was a carburetor problem. So when I talked to Hippa, I told them they could get me a carb for the 041 and a 036. So shortly here I'm going to be pulling the 041 out. I'm going to clean that up and start disassembling that and put this guy in there and show you how that functions. So stay tuned. I'm gonna make another video here too. You just saw that saw run, and I got to thinking I'm gonna take and put the factory Talotson back on here and pull off that HiPA carb. and see how it runs otherwise with the factory carb on it. Even though I never went through the factory carb at all, it's still the way it was from when I got the saw from the neighbor. Just gonna pull the Hippa off and put the factory Tillotson back on here and show you I guarantee it's going to run the same. Factory Tillotson. I wouldn't think I'd need to choke it. Maybe so. I'd say that's OEM quality in my opinion for aftermarket parts. Ain't nothing wrong with that. So I'm gonna get going on that 041 here. I gotta piece some stuff back together and get these off the bench. I'm gonna pull out that 041 and we'll go through and stick a HiPA carb on that guy and get that guy going right again.